everybody. Welcome to another episode of Insurance 360. So I'm here with my good friend again, Mr.
Cheers.
Rob.
What's going on, Bob? How's everything going?
Yeah, well, it's going, I guess, man. It's going. It's feels like Groundhog Day a little bit. I don't know. It's like end of AEP already.
I was going to make a joke about me having less gray hair at the beginning, but I'd be lying to myself if I said that.
Yeah. Well, we've pretty much ad nauseum talked about all the disruption that's been going on in this past year. Certainly, as agents in the field, they've probably been feeling it, right? You've been feeling the disruption. Not to mention that midway through AEP, we had some
more disruption,
more changes coming. Hey, how about you can't sell these plans, or you can sell them but only paper, or they're not commissionable. Let's just throw a couple other wrinkles into an already crazy situation. But it's almost at the end. We're getting there.
We're getting there. It's almost like you got like the higher ups and they're trying to play Yahtzee and they're just throwing dice. What's going to stick at this point?
Yeah, I mean, in a perfect world, I think we can get to a point where there's not these big swings in how things are done.
Yeah.
In general, in a year. I mean, maybe some consistency. I don't know if Mr. CMS, I'm talking to you, Mr. CMS, consistency for the next year would be great if we could have that. The turmoil. I mean, I don't think at the end of the day, I mean, we'll talk about it. I mean, it's about the beneficiaries. I mean, all the moving parts from CMS, they're managing it, they're funding it, they're doing all that kind of stuff. And then the carriers are putting the plans together and making their footprints and doing their thing. And then agents, we're learning all this stuff. We're meeting with beneficiaries. What's the best plan for everybody? So everybody's got their role to play. But at the end of the day, everybody's, all this is so the beneficiaries got the most appropriate, best coverage for their circumstances.
Yeah.
And when there's all this turmoil across the chain, it lends itself to maybe not having as much consistency, right?
I'll take some, what's the thing that Walmart does? Some rollbacks?
Rollbacks.
I'll take some rollbacks, I'd be happy to see some of the regulations.
2019.
Yeah, that are in place now. Maybe go back to that no 48-hour scope. That was nice. Call recording, maybe, I mean, look, who knows what's going to happen. But I think history has proven when you do have the Republicans in, they're a little more laissez-faire, and hopefully we'll see a little bit of that creep back into the business.
Our man, Dr. Oz.
We're looking at you, Dr. Oz.
Dr. Oz. We got to have our back this year, but we will see. Time will tell. But we think we're in a good place.
Yeah.
So being that it's the end of AEP, we did invite a special guest, Vice President of our Medicare sales, Jeff Palo. If you've been doing any business with Pinnacle for any amount of time, you probably know Jeff. He's sort of like the furniture in the office. He's been here forever.
Long time.
He's always here. He's extremely knowledgeable on everything Medicare. So we thought no more appropriate time and an individual to have on the Insurance 360 podcast than Jeff. So Jeff took a couple of minutes out of his day, and here is some of the stuff we went over, just to plan for not only the end of AEP, but for next year.
Nice.
Yeah, so Jeff, let's take it away. Special guest today, Jeff Palo, Vice President of Marketing here at Pinnacle Financial Services. And it's the end of AEP. So we thought it was appropriate, Jeff, that your first time on Insurance 360, you jump in here at the end.
I feel excited. I feel proud to finally be on here.
Yeah, well, we had to work out the kinks through the first little bit, man. We wanted to make sure we were humming by the time we had you on here. But nothing like the end of AEP. Last week, of course, it's on Saturday this year. So, it's a little bit different than a lot of other years.
I think it's better to end on Saturday than start on Saturday. I know a lot of agents got appointments all throughout the day Saturday.
Yeah, it's going to be busy. A lot of different rules. Those that have worked in Medicare and done AEP know that some of the carriers, if it's not in by the 7th, it's kind of done. Yeah. And then there's some other carriers, as long as it's dated by the 7th, you can get it in on the 8th or even the 9th. I mean, it just kind of depends a little bit.
I think the important thing to remember is that the applications are all supposed to have been done on the 7th. So if you're doing it electronically, obviously you got to get it done by the 7th, get it submitted. It's all timestamped, so you're covered. If you're submitting the paper app, you see the people Saturday, you get it signed on the 7th. A lot of the carriers will let you submit it up until 8th, 9th. I think even a couple of them are even later this year. But that's something definitely to pay attention to. Yeah,
no, it's really important. And you're right. The rules are a little bit different. As we all know here, carriers can sort of deal with this a little bit differently. On the electronic enrollment, I know just make sure it's not like 11:59 when you're trying to submit an enrollment. God forbid it doesn't go through until 12:01 and it's going to come out as a 12:08. And of course, that's not going to qualify under AEP at that point. Yeah. So you guys got to make sure you give yourself a little bit of time there at the end. But we know it's been kind of a crazy year. You know, in the podcast, some of the episodes we've done earlier, we've talked about all the changes, all the disruption. And then, of course, in the middle of AEP, we're getting product changes from carriers. Yeah. Commissions are changing a little bit. You got to do a paper app on some products in some states, in some plans. I mean, so there's been a lot of disruption this year. So in a certain extent, we made it through this year. We survived AEP a little bit. I know you talk to agents every day, all day. Has all the craziness that we anticipated, has it kind of been that way?
Honestly, it's surprisingly been a little less of an issue than I was expecting it would be. Actually, to go along with some of the craziness and then the timing at the end of AEP, it's probably an important thing to make sure we mention. Any of the people that were on some of these terminated plans for this year, which were 10 times more than previous years, I think it was a little over 2 million this year. Remember, you have an SCP for those people all the way through February, actually. So if you're sitting there with a bunch of appointments to end the year, to end the AEP season, maybe those that were on plans that terminated, you fit them in over the course of the next week because you still have some time for those people.
Yeah, right? It's a great point. Because we want to talk a little bit about OEP this year as well. So those of you that are new to Medicare, there's another enrollment period, starts January 1st, runs till March 31st, called OEP. Rules are a little bit different, right? What you can do, how you can market. You can't technically market as OEP, but individuals... You can't
tell people there's another enrollment period.
Yeah, exactly. But individuals that have an MA plan and then maybe aren't happy with it, do have a chance to change, for a couple of months. So there is some other opportunities here after this week for a lot of individuals.
OEP this year is probably the most important it's been since its inception, 4 or 5 years ago, something like that.
Right.
I mean, for a number of reasons, not the least of which is the news we just got in the last couple of days where, it doesn't look like agents are going to be able to use the FEMA SCPs in any of the states anymore. Right. It's from what they're telling us starting in April, if somebody wants to use one of those disaster SCPs, they got to call CMS and enroll directly.
Yeah. So in the announcement, it just came out 2 days ago. Yeah. It looks like the carriers have to make sure there's no mention even of it on enrollment forms, applications. It's going to be gone.
Yeah. It's not supposed to be a reason that people are moving. It's supposed to be there for someone who really missed another chance that they had, right? I mean, it's always been that way. You were supposed to have missed an enrollment period that was available to you, and you were supposed to have been affected by the actual disaster. So I think they're just reining that in a little bit, but it's something to be aware of if you were using that for the last bunch of years. I mean, New York is a great example. They've had a consistent SCP for as long as I can remember.
Right, frankly. Yeah. Was it the violence?
The gun violence.
The gun violence SCP, right? Yeah, so somehow that has been in effect for, I think, since COVID, just about, right? Or just right after?
At least since COVID, yeah.
Very interesting, yeah.
So you got to fit all those people in during OEP as well with all the changes with the special needs plans this year.
Yeah, we talked a lot about the marketing for OEP. You can't market as OEP, but of course, you can do regular marketing, right? And
Yeah.
if you come across individuals that are in a plan that's, you're talking to them and the doctor's not in network anymore, or the prescriptions all of a sudden aren't showing and they didn't realize it, there isn't that opportunity, and that's where the OEP comes into play.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it makes a lot of sense. But I mean, to your point on the SCPs, I mean, there's even was changes earlier this year that came out on the SCP, which is really complicated.
Yeah.
a lot more than the disaster ones. So can we do monthly now? Is it quarterly? Well,
yeah.
So how do we deal with SCPs in general?
I will say, and I've been trying to read into this and make sure that we're up on it as much as we can be. I got to tell you, I don't think most other people are paying attention to it yet, but it's probably the biggest change in our industry in terms of enrollment periods in the last bunch of years, right? And it's not to get too deep into it in a podcast here, but you really are going to have to start paying attention to what state you're in and what those enrollment periods look like. But I mean, right off the bat, the bottom line is the quarterly LIS SCP is gone. I mean, that is no longer an option. If you are using the quarterly SCP for LIS, think of something else that you're going to do, right? Now, they've given us a couple other options, but, right off the bat, if you're somebody who's a Quimby, Slimby, right, a partial dual that we talk about, they don't have an additional enrollment period anywhere, right? So those people got to be doing OEP enrollments, have to use a different SCP in the state, right? Like hopefully you have an SPAP there, one of the pharmaceutical programs, right? And then you start getting into the full duals and how that works. You start really getting into some interesting topics.
Did I hear correctly? And you can correct me if I'm wrong, that some states, the way the rule changed, might not have any plans that are really going to be able to be used for the SCPs?
Yeah, and not to get super into the weeds, but I've been using, since we're in Pennsylvania, we're in a tight area in terms of a bunch of states. So the examples I've been using for everyone have been New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Connecticut. And they're pretty much like the three levels of what this new setup is going to look like. For New Jersey, for example, right, the idea is, and what the government wants to get to over the course of the next 5 years, is that every plan is integrated, which essentially means that their Medicaid and their Medicare are coming from the same company. Everything's working together. It's more efficient. Everybody's saving money, right? Better care outcomes. But they got to do that over time. And this is one of those big steps that they've taken to kind of force the hand. And in New Jersey, we'll start with, right? Every plan that's a dual there is what they call fully integrated, right? FIDE, F-I-D-E, you see it. And what that means is everyone will be able to take advantage of the new monthly SCP you have. And if you enroll in someone in a DSNP plan, let's say you go from United to Aetna or Aetna to Horizon, whatever, the Medicaid is going to automatically follow with them. So to agents in New Jersey, they may not even know there was a difference, right? All they're going to see is I got a monthly SCP now. I don't have to wait to the next quarter to do it, right? That's the best case scenario in this new situation, right? Where beyond that, it starts getting a little bit more dicey, right? You look at Pennsylvania, they don't have fully integrated plans. They have highly integrated plans, right? Not to confuse anyone, but
so nothing like adding some more acronyms to our conversation.
If you never heard the term FIDE, HIDE before, Quimby, Slimby, Quimby Plus, right? You're going to hear it this year a lot, probably coming in the first quarter. But in those highly integrated states, if you want to use the monthly SCP, the Medicaid for that person has to be moved first, right? Which as agents, you can't even do that yourselves. If you're not familiar with it, you better get familiar with it quick, because if you're going to enroll somebody in June in a DSNP plan using the monthly SCP, you better make sure that their Medicaid was moved first and that it is a plan that offers the Medicaid, right? You have certain states like Pennsylvania with Cigna is a great example. Cigna doesn't have Medicaid contract in Pennsylvania. Now, you can still sell their dual plan here, but you have to do it during AEP and OEP. So it's going to be by area of the state. It's going to be by plan. It's going to be by Medicaid contract, right? It's going to be a lot of different things in those situations. And there's a lot of states like that. And you got to be familiar with it if you're selling in that area, right? That's confusing. But where it really gets difficult is when you get to a state that's like Connecticut, where they don't have integrated plans. So if you're in Connecticut and you've been selling a lot of dual plans throughout the year, these last couple of years, better figure out a way to get them on that SPAP very quickly, or put them on during OEP, or else you're not going to have an enrollment period for those duals anywhere.
It's just crazy. I mean, to a certain extent, we knew this past year, the rules changing, a lot of craziness going on, a lot of education. I think this has just been overlooked to a great extent. This part of it and what that impacts, what the agents, what we're doing out there every day. I know as a team here at Pinnacle, we're holding a lot of trainings. You can reach out to the sales team. There's webinars that are going to be getting held on a regular basis. So there's a lot of things going on right now. And oh, by the way, we just had an election this year. Who the hell knows what else is going to change? now that we got Dr. Oz going to be running things.
Something's going to change. I mean, that's for sure. I don't know if this is one of those things that they can do that quickly. Let's hope so. But one way or the other, we got to be ready. I mean, I know we're going to have a bunch of tools available, right? Because not everybody paid attention to who had the Medicaid contracts before.
Right.
That's going to be super important in a lot of states this year.
Yeah. And let's, the 2026 proposed final rule came out. We haven't really delved a ton into it. It's not good if you're an agent and you're thinking about marketing Medicare, if it went through the way it is. But obviously, again, with the election, we could very well see that being thrown away and a new proposed rule coming out. Who knows in what direction it might go into. We talked a little bit about on our last episode how we feel as though the new administration, and even just looking at what Dr. Oz has talked about with MedAdvantage, in his last couple of years, just being on a talk show and YouTube and whatnot, he's been pretty pro MA, right? Even the Medicare Advantage for all they talked about. So we think it's going to be, in the right direction when it comes to selling.
He's about as pro Medicare Advantage as it gets.
That's what it seems.
Regardless of political affiliation, our business, it's a good thing. And we're hoping that the first thing that they do here is cancel out some of the more negative aspects of this proposed final rule. Key thing is it's still proposed. So They can cut it or change it. Yeah,
no, you're right. There's a lot going on. We got end of AEP. OEP is probably going to be more disruptive than we could have known in the last couple of years anyway, just with people and new plans and whatnot. And then all the new SCP rules that are coming out, the new disaster rules that are coming out. We're accustomed to, all these changes and whatnot. I'd like it to smooth out a little bit. Maybe we'll have it where it's not quite like every time you turn your head, it's something changed.
This last year and a half has been brutal with the changes and trying to stay on top of it. And I mean, it's all started right around when they implemented those new recording rules. And it's been something or another all the way up into this year. So we're hoping that it slows down again back into, 6, 7, 8 years ago, how we were rolling back in those days.
Yeah, exactly. Market's growing. I mean, everybody out there, this is still a great market to be in. There's a lot of opportunity. There's tons going on, but you do have to get yourself up to speed on all these changes as they're coming. Reach out to the team. Jeff's got a whole sales team. We have a whole support team here. We've got training going on. We're easy to get a hold of. Just make sure that before you're doing something that you're not sure of it, just check in and we'd be happy to help and give some guidance and make sure things are going well.
Make sure you're looking at the update emails you're getting from everyone. I know we all get a million of them, but at this point, hopefully it's slowing down a little bit for you. It's time to pay attention to those and listen to some of those webinars and make sure you're in touch with your carrier reps because they're going to be key as point people for us all as we get into some of these new rules going on.
Yeah. We always say, make sure you're following on social media. We put a lot of stuff out there on social media, updates, when we're going to hold different trainings and webinars on different topics. So make sure you're following us on YouTube and LinkedIn and Facebook. And we throw a lot of content out there, which can really help making sure that everybody's doing things the right way. You're not having clients that are mad at you, accidentally putting them in plans that you're not, they shouldn't be putting them in. All those things that are going on right now, there's just a lot of stuff, moving parts. But if you follow us and keep an eye out for those webinars, I think you'll be ahead of the game a little bit.
So that's a good point. Is first thing you should probably do after AEP is check on the status of all the apps you submitted and make sure your book is where you think it is. Because AEP, everybody always forgets, it's last app in. So you could have written somebody that first week of AEP. If somebody got a hold of them over the phone and maybe they didn't realize what happened and that app went in after you, you want to know that sooner than later so you can prepare to, change them back to what they need to be during OEP.
Yeah, it's a great point. Probably even the last couple of days of AEP, if your schedule is a little bit open, if you want to, it happens to be the case, maybe you want to go and check on some of that stuff just to make sure.
Yeah.
But give yourself a last couple of days where you got to go rewrite somebody, you can do it. So a lot of going on here, a lot of moving parts. Make sure you're in touch with us. If you have any questions, Saturday is D-Day for AEP. Officially 11:59 in your time zone, right? If you're West Coast.
11:59 your time zone. And we will have people here for most of the day, Saturday and Sunday, taking enrollments, answering questions by email, by phone. So don't feel like you can't call if you're not sure what to do. We'll have somebody available.
Yeah, great. No, I appreciate it. A lot of good information. Jeff, I know it's kind of busy right now. Glad to take a couple of minutes. Got on your our first episode here together on but I'm sure there'll be more as a lot of these changes come down the road.
Glad to get the first one out of the way, and I think we started strong.
There you go. All right, everybody, appreciate it, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks again.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
Man, nothing like a lot of information coming to you here on a nice end of AEP.
We're here on Saturday, man. That's crazy.
It is.
Anything for our agents, I'll tell you that.
But as Jeff mentioned, it's probably better to be the last day of AEP on a Saturday than the first day of AEP being on a Saturday, just thinking about it logistically. But, there's a lot of changes. I mean, he just went into all those changes, not only with AEP, the OEP situation that's coming. Oh, by the way, all the SCP changes that came down the road. And then 2 days ago, we just got hit with another one where the emergency disaster stuff, which Jeff just talked about, big change coming April. So
it's crazy to me that they're not gonna. I don't even want to talk about it.
Yeah, so
I don't even want to talk about it.
So OEP is probably the next big challenge for everybody. We think it'll, like Jeff mentioned, and we've talked about it. I think there'll be a lot of disruption this year. A lot of movement, probably still even going on during OEP. Not necessarily as much as AEP, of course, but we think more than previous OEP years. So make sure that you're following us, you're liking us, you're looking at all the content we're putting out there. If you're not getting emails from us, please reach out to us. We can get you on our email distribution. We're like a fire hose with information out there just to make sure that everybody's got what they need, doing things the right way, which is not as easy as you would think these last year or so. Just with all the changes, just staying on top of everything. It's been crazy.
Yeah, I mean, look, with OEP, there's a lot of do's and don'ts, right? So we don't like to play the gray area here because when you play the gray area, that's when you get in trouble, right?
Compliance is huge. I mean, nobody wants to be on the end of that email from a carrier saying, hey, you got a complaint that came in. You've got to pull your recording if you have one. You've got to answer a bunch of questions about the how the lead was generated.
Here's a training module that you got to take that doesn't have any impact on what you just
even
did.
If it's unfounded, it's still the hassle and the different hoops you got to jump through when you do have something like that come down the road. So you don't want to have that happen. So compliance is big and an important issue. So make sure that we're doing OEP the right way. You can't mention OEP when you're marketing OEP, as we've talked about before, but you can market Medicare.
Yeah. And look, if you're unsure just reach out to us. If
Yes.
you're unsure, we have a whole marketing division. We have a compliance officer. If you're unsure, just reach out. We can at least give you our input on what you're doing, and make sure. I mean, what's the turnaround time right now with CMS? It's not quick.
Day by day, it can change a lot. Especially now the holidays are coming up, so I'm sure their work schedule is not going to be quite the same.
Especially with the government.
Yeah, I'm sure. Are they still there? I don't even know what day.
Their Christmas break's a little bit longer than everyone else.
Exactly.
So
but,
just be cognizant of that. If you need something CMS approved, you make sure you're putting that in as early as possible. Even if the idea is just in your head, you should probably be ready to submit it to CMS.
Yeah, and we can help you with that. We've got the tools here in our compliance department. We've even got our graphics team that can help.
Yep.
If we need to tweak something, make sure all the right disclaimers are on there. Disclaimers changed over the last couple of years, a couple different times, of course, just to make sure everything is correctly being marketed. So it's important, but we're here to help. Reach out. Anything we can do to help this be as smooth as possible end of AEP, into OEP, and then through all the other stuff that's going to come down the road, I'm sure next year, we'll make sure that everybody's on top of it and compliant.
Yeah. And I mean, till next year, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
At this point, it's AEP's, coming to a close, but you had a lot of SARs this year. So you are going to have people that are going to be writing through December as well.
Yeah, exactly. So stay tuned for more information coming down the road.
Yeah,
right.
We'll be here. We got
all
you
right.
guys.
So let's
Cheers.
end of AEP. Here we go.
It was a long one.
Take it easy, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.
Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you.